and on WAMV, and we're looking for a wonderful day here in the central part of Virginia. And Mother's Day is fast approaching, and during this time period, many people's attention turns towards their mothers, but some forget about how mothers who have lost children feel, and we're joined today all the way from the Gold Coast in Australia with Denny Meek. She has written a book called Still Standing, a mother's raw journey from the shadows of loss to the dawning of hope, and has quite a story to tell. And good night, Denny.
Hi, Bob.
I can't believe that actually it's 10 o'clock in the morning on Friday, and we're talking. You're already in Saturday where you are.
Yes, we're 3 minutes into Saturday here.
And well, it's very, very dark.
Mm.
You in Still Standing, tell an amazing story that I am amazed at how you've managed to make it through this time period. The book is called A Mother's Raw Journey from the Shadows of Loss to the Dawning of Hope. Tell me, what happened?
Well, in Still Standing, I write about the major life challenges that I've experienced, which includes 2 relationships of domestic violence, the death of my infant son when he was aged 2 months from a heart abnormality, the development of fully blown anorexia nervosa in my daughter, and the deaths of 2 of my teenagers several years apart in separate suicides, and a very long passage of grief.
I can imagine. So all this happened within how long a period of time?
We're going a couple of decades here. My baby son, my second son Joseph, would be in his 30s now. All my children would be in their 30s now. So, and my teenagers died. My eldest son was 18 when he took his life, and my daughter was 19.
Wow.
Mm.
Any one of these events happening would have been really distressing. How did you get through it?
I think, you come down to a day at a time when you really, in a space like that. I really felt that I had no choice because I've been a single mother for most of my mothering, and I've always had another child at home that I had to live on for, and it's still like that to this day. So I haven't considered that I've had an option. My youngest child still lives with me. He's 31, and he became a qualified baker last year and got his driver's license last year. So that means that I was driving him until then.
So tell us a little bit more about exactly, particularly the anorexia nervosa situation. I think we're talking on the air that one of the most prominent people to die of that, who was well known in this area, was Karen Carpenter.
Yes.
It was almost unknown that that's what she had, but that's how she ended up dying. She starved herself to death, basically, I guess.
Yes. So anorexia nervosa is one of the most complex mental illnesses, and it is notoriously difficult to treat. And to this day, it holds the highest mortality rate of any mental illness, which is 20% for fully blown sufferers. My daughter did not die of anorexia, and she put in a huge effort and actually recovered. So I make sure to tell her story. There's a chapter in Still Standing called Pursuit of Perfection, which is about her, her journey and ours as a family, because it's terribly distressing to the family as well to be going through this. It's confusing. It's an unusual illness, and if people can get onto it sooner, early intervention returns better results. So my daughter was actually hospitalised for 6 months to begin with, and she was one of the sickest anorexia admissions her team had ever seen. I had not been able to get good help for her beforehand. The professionals, they did the best that they could, but she was very sick by the time we got her to hospital. And she came out and she was physically refed after 6 months, but mentally she was sicker. And it only took her 3 months to take off more than half the weight that they'd put on her. And she had to be readmitted to hospital for another 5 weeks. She managed to keep herself out of hospital after that and to maintain her body weight just under the minimum body mass index. So that's the anorexia story. She actually recovered. It was ironic that her recovery was precipitated by her older brother's death. But I think that everything else paled in insignificance next to his death. She was very close to him and nothing was as important anymore to her. So the anorexia didn't matter as much. And she recovered.
So her older brother committed suicide?
He did, yes. That's my...
And so what is... This seems like just unbelievable to think of that. And that what's amazing to me is how you managed to get through it, which I'd like to go into in a moment. But what happened to her older brother? Why did he commit suicide?
It's a good question, Bob. And
there are no answers.
Well, really, yeah. I think that people who live with suicide bereavement are left with a lot of unanswered questions of all types. You know, for me, they were spiritual questions as well. How was this allowed to happen to one mother several times? And, you know, my son was a beautiful person. He was a lovely soul. He was very sensitive and a good person, conscientious, had integrity, would speak up, you know, on behalf of people who were being mistreated, and he was just a good person. And I think that the world was a harsh place for him. I think I see changes happening now for young men. I see a lot of really good fathering going on now. I know that he missed a father presence in his life. That was just one aspect. But, you know, bereavement by suicide is a really difficult loss to live with because it's so layered and they take some of the answers with them. If indeed they know all the answers themselves, you know, as to why they're feeling like that. I think that, you know, personality, a sensitive personality, a background. He lost his little brother when he was young. He wrote poetry as a teenager, and I found a poem written to his little brother who died at 2 months from the heart abnormality. So these are things that travel through a person's life with them. And there are final triggers, of course, too, in the last few months and the last days, as there were for Simon. I miss him still. I was looking at photos of him just before we started speaking, and I miss him still.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Yeah.
So you mentioned that there was some domestic violence in your home. What do you do when that happens? The counsellors will recommend that you leave, and I would recommend that too if it's possible, because I have seen the damage that domestic violence can do. I was very shocked to come across a statistic in my research that children who live with domestic violence are 6 times more likely to take their own lives. So it causes damage that you cannot see, and they don't have to witness it firsthand to be affected. So, you know, if possible, leave. I understand that it's not that straightforward for everybody. So I would just say take it very seriously. Keep yourself and your children safe. Protect yourself with rational thinking, because something will have to be done about it. Have a separate account for yourself that you call emergency funds. Preferably seek counselling. And you know, it will. The research shows that it's most likely to escalate. So yeah. So, get out when you still can.
Look, I would say so. I understand that it's a very complex situation. I really do. I was in it twice myself, and it's not straightforward when you have to take all the responsibility. And it also, it's not just women who are affected. It's mainly women, and they have generally speaking, more difficult, more challenging economic considerations.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah.
You mentioned, you told me a little while ago that the network of mental health support falls short. Is it getting better? Is it still short? And how? Tell us a little bit about what that was like in Australia.
I just want to give credit where credit's due and say that they are all doing their best. You know, my background is in psychology, and I have a lifelong fascination with it. And we have members of the family who work in the field, work very hard and very committed. My frustration with it was that the field pointed the finger at the mother when it came to anorexia nervosa, which doesn't mean that it wasn't my fault. I mean, I blamed myself anyway for all the pains my children suffered. But the point is, when it comes, for example, to anorexia nervosa, that the mortality rate doesn't change. It's still got the highest mortality rate of any mental illness, so we haven't got to the bottom of it yet. And yeah, I know that they're listening much more to lived experience now with everything, which is great. For example, suicide bereavement, the helping professions are guided much more by lived experience than they used to be, than just by academic study. So I think that that's heading in the right direction.
No, you mentioned something about spirituality in and amongst all this. Is that what helped get you through?
Actually, I had a bit of a beef with God, Bob, and that was hard because that's a hard space to be in. I didn't want to feel that way, but I had to be honest, and I include a section in Still Standing called Conversation at God, and it's honest. You know, it's not rude or disrespectful. It's just very honest, and it represents what a lot of people experience. I was talking about the unfairness of it and how is life allowed to happen like this. Eventually, I guess it's my spirituality that pushes me to resolve, and I use that term theoretically, to resolve the uncomfortable space I'm landed in, and to want to be on good terms with whatever it is I'm calling God. You know, it's important to me.
I can certainly imagine it really was.
Yeah.
It still is. I can't imagine losing that many people. And how many times you must have asked, why me?
I did.
And do you have an answer to that now? Why me?
No, I don't. No, I have to pass on that.
I guess the only thing you can say is, well, why not?
Yeah, I don't know why me. I'm still working my way through it.
Right. So you had 4 children. One of them died from natural causes, but the other
2 were suicides.
2 were suicides, and you still have one who lives with you.
That's correct, yes.
And how's he doing?
He's doing well. He's a beautiful person. I'm very proud of him. He's a lovely human being, very well-intentioned. He was a happy child, and he's a happy adult, and a lovely person. He's quiet but funny and incredibly intelligent, and I enjoy his intelligence immensely. At the moment, he's making me sit through a series of Star Trek. I don't know why, but he's forcing me to become a Trekkie.
Good for him.
Yeah, he can discuss it with me now.
That's great.
Yeah.
So your book came out of journaling that you did to cope with these challenges?
That's right, it did, yes. I've written about 3 million words in my journals in my lifetime. And so that's been my primary coping mechanism. It's been really important to me. I find it does a lot. You know, it externalizes, and you can see whatever is upsetting you, you can see it on the page a bit more objectively, and for me it feels like it gets it out. It scrapes the top off the pain and can help you make sense of it, can help you validate it. And for me, I was scared of losing memories of my children, so I documented them there. And I also, I documented dreams I had and anything I didn't want to forget. Just a precious place, my journals. And of course it was the source of a lot of information for the book Still Standing. And I've also got a seam of journals excerpts running through the book, which enables a level of depth to be able to communicate a rawness and immediacy of the experiences to the reader.
I understand that Still Standing is being used by some universities.
Yes, it is 3 Australian universities at this stage. I'm very glad about that, because that means that the pain isn't wasted and it's contributing to the minds in the fields of tomorrow. So it's an honour.
Well, it's an honour to talk to you, and I'm certainly glad that you're still with us and still keeping on, as they say.
Thank you, Bob.
Because I think you have a lot to offer people who are going through this. Do you talk to a lot of people who are having difficulties and struggles, and are able to help them go in the right direction?
Not at this stage, and not as many as I would like to. I attended a bereaved parent support group for 8 years after my big children died, and that was a great source of help to me. I will continue to do public speaking and speaking engagements. At this stage, I haven't had as much one-on-one contact with people as I know that I will. Yeah. Is Mother's Day just a USA? No, we have it here. It's big to us as well. That comes up on the second Sunday in May, doesn't it?
It does.
Mm.
I'm really happy to be able to talk to you at this time, because it's so close to Mother's Day. But I imagine that how do you react to Mother's Day when that day comes up?
It varies from year to year. I just go with whatever comes up for me on significant days like Mother's Day or Christmas or Easter, my children's birthdays or anniversaries. I just go with whatever comes up, because it's not like I don't think about them every other day of the year, you know. But when significant days like that come up, I go with it. I noticed that out at the cemetery where my children are all together, all the vases for the flowers that they have out there, they are all used up. And I think it's the only day of the year that I've seen that happen. That's on Mother's Day.
Wow. Well, that's wonderful. Well, we wish you the very best this Mother's Day, and consider it a real honor and privilege to be able to talk to you. And I'm sure there's a lot of people who have lost loved ones who really have appreciated what we've said, what you've said. And
thank you.
Thank you very, very much, and we wish you the very best and a good night. And I think you're
bedtime. Thank you, Bob. And could I just say, please, if anybody wants some resources, there is a free download on my website about my thoughts on being around bereaved people and just my experiences that I've shared. And also my book is available for purchase there at dennymeek.com. That's DENNYMEEK.com. And it's also available at all the good bookstores, Amazon, Barnes & Noble, etc. And thank you so much for having me.
Well, thank you. It's been our pleasure, and we wish you the very best in Australia. And I don't get to talk to people. I've talked to people in New Zealand before, but I've never talked to anybody in Australia, and it's been a real pleasure.
It's been lovely. Thank you.
We hope you just have a wonderful weekend.
Thank you. You too, Bob. Thanks very much for having me.
God bless you.
Thank you. You too. Thanks.
AM 1420, FM 103.1.